3 agonizing crossbars, a mountain of missed chances, and 89 minutes of pure, heart-pounding, absolutely goalless frustration. And then the 90th minute happened. A substitute steps onto the pitch and literally flips the entire script. Manchester United winger Amad Diallo delivers this clinical, ice-cold finish, pulling off a miraculous 1-0 victory for Ivory Coast right at the death. I mean, you can't write this stuff. Welcome to this explainer, where we are going to break down exactly how this stunning climax unfolded. 19. Just think about that number for a second. Going into this match, Ecuador was riding a massive, seriously intimidating 19-match unbeaten streak. They hadn't lost a single game since facing Brazil way back in September 2024. That is 19 games of absolute dominance. And all of that momentum, all of that feeling of invincibility, it was completely shattered in the final seconds of this match by one single devastating shot. So let's set the stage. Section 1, the pre-match context. It's the classic unstoppable force versus an immovable object. To really appreciate this heist, we gotta compare these two sides. On the left, Ivory Coast. They're making their grand return to the World Cup after a 12-year absence, carrying the heavy legacy of legends like Didier Drogba. And defensively, they have been an absolute fortress. Under coach Amad Diallo, they played 10 qualifying matches and conceded exactly 0 goals. 0! A rock-solid defense, though. Yeah, they did have some finishing issues up top. Now, facing them on the right was Ecuador. Managed by Sebastian Bekasegi, this team was just brimming with immense confidence. 19 matches unbeaten. Going into the game, the tension was already through the roof. But honestly, before a ball was even kicked, we had massive drama. Coach Fa made the highly controversial call to leave Amad Diallo on the bench. Like, what? This was a shocking team selection, especially considering Amad had just scored the winning goal in a recent warm-up match against France. Leaving one of your absolute most dangerous attacking weapons out of the starting lineup is a huge gamble. Keep this in the back of your mind, because this decision literally sets the stage for everything that follows. Moving right along to Section 2, first half woodwork drama, or as I like to call it, the crossbar curse. The sheer unbelievable bad luck we witnessed in the first 45 minutes was just staggering. First, Ecuador's John Yobo unleashes a brilliant shot from the edge of the area. Bam! It hits the crossbar. It easily could have been 1-0 right there. Then, Ecuador's Alan Minda gets a slick through ball, strikes it hard, bam! Smashes the crossbar again. The posts were physically shaking out there. But Ivory Coast had their own cursed moment when Aili Wahi attempted this really clever flick-on and hit the post. 3 separate players hitting the woodwork in a single half. It's a genuinely wild stat that shows exactly how incredibly close Ecuador was to taking early control. All right, Section 3, second half, momentum shift. This is where Ivory Coast takes control. You know the old saying, football is a game of 2 halves? Well, as we enter the second half, the tactical momentum slowly but surely began to swing toward Ivory Coast. And a huge part of that shift, Yan Diomande. Get this, he is only 19 years old, playing his club football for RB Leipzig, and he was an absolute menace out there. He continuously terrorized Ecuador down the right flank, with non-stop dribbles, penetrating runs, and really dangerous crosses. He kept the Ecuadorian defense completely scrambling, and basically single-handedly shifted the offensive pressure in Ivory Coast's favor. If he keeps playing like this, for sure he's going to be one of the breakout stars of the whole tournament. So as the second half ticks away, the tension is just building rapidly. In the 56th minute, Coach Fawane finally makes his move. He pulls Bazouma Touré and brings on the man of the hour, Amad Diallo. But listen, Ecuador wasn't done yet. In the 68th minute, Gonzalo Plata unleashes an absolute rocket of a drive from 25 yards out. It looks destined for the back of the net, but Ivory Coast goalkeeper Yahia Fofana makes a brilliant, match-saving parry, deflecting it out for a corner. As the clock ticks down past the 80th minute, both teams are pushing hard, but we hit the 89th minute and it honestly feels like we are locked into a guaranteed 0-0 draw. Which brings us to Section 4, Amad Diallo's last-minute magic, the 90th minute climax.
Stop the clock. This is the moment that time stood still, right when everyone assumed the final whistle was just a formality. Let's break down the sheer tactical brilliance of this winning goal. First, the unsung hero, Wilfried Singo. Originally positioned defensively, Singo makes an absolutely lung-busting run down the right flank, completely blowing past the exhausted Ecuadorian defenders. Next, he keeps total composure and delivers a pinpoint, low cutback pass right to the edge of the penalty area. And finally, Amad Diallo. He doesn't even hesitate. He doesn't even take a touch to settle it. He just steers a first-time left foot finish straight inside the post. Ecuadorian goalkeeper Hernan Galindez literally didn't even have time to react. Pure, unadulterated magic.
And you want to know the historical significance of that goal? It takes us all the way back to 2006. According to Opta, Amad Diallo is the latest substitute to score a winning goal in a 1-0 World Cup match since Italy's Francesco Totti did it back then. That is how rare and how spectacular a moment like this is on the global stage. Let's wrap this up in Section 5, Match Analysis and Takeaways. The Aftermath. So the dust finally settles. The fans in Philadelphia are absolutely delirious, and Ecuador's Coach Bikachisi is left telling reporters, "It hurts. This is very painful." So what should you take away from this explainer? First, the masterclass sub. Coach Faye's highly controversial gamble to bench Amad Diallo paid off perfectly when it mattered most. Second, the unsung hero. We have got to give massive credit to Wilfried Singo. Without that vital, lung-bursting run, that goal simply doesn't happen. Third, the woodwork miracle. 3 hits on the frame of the goal. If even one of those goes in during the first half, we're talking about a completely different football match today. Fourth, the streak shattered. Ecuador suffers their first loss since September 2024. And finally, Yan Diamande. Keep your eyes glued to this 19-year-old. He is a breakout star in the making. So what does this all mean for the rest of the tournament? Well, let's look at Group E. Germany and Ivory Coast are now sitting comfortably at the top, tied with 3 points each. Meanwhile, Ecuador and Curaçao are left at the bottom with 0. This perfectly, and I mean perfectly, sets up an absolute blockbuster clash between Germany and Ivory Coast to see who will truly dominate this group. This match perfectly encapsulates the total unpredictability of football. A game is literally never truly over until the referee blows that final whistle. So I want to ask you, did you honestly think Ivory Coast was going to win before that 90th minute struck? Let us know. And make sure you stick around because in our next explainer, we are breaking down the absolute madness of Germany's 7-goal thriller against Curaçao. You definitely will not want to miss that one. Until then, keep learning,